Alrighty, guys, we are live. We're going to be diving into the Delphi murders, Abby and Libby's case. We'll be going over the transcripts, and we'll get started here in just a few. Right now, I'm just eating my English muffin and drinking my coffee, and we'll give everybody an opportunity to kind of get in here. What's up, Hex? Surprised people don't believe Richard Allen is Walt. It doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, the evidence was not overwhelming against Richard Allen. But the one thing he had was physical evidence tying him to the crime scene, which was the bullet. What's up, Miss Dog Lover, Miss Joel, and Hex 1312? Bill, what up? What is up, Bill? My guy, Bill. You still in Florida, Bill? Sorry, guys, I'm eating. New York, New York, big city of dreams. I think Bill turned into a snowbird. All right, let me pull these up on the screen for you guys. Sorry, I'm a little bit out of it today. I'm kind of hungover. Hungover, a little bit tired. So the way they did this was in volumes. They did about 20, I think 21 volumes. Volume 1 is the table of contents. Ha! Yeah. Oh, tell me. I already know that. New York and California. Two of America's shitholes. Davey, how you doing? And he put himself there at the time of the crimes. Well, he didn't put himself there, right? Technically, he could have just been going about his day and just happened to be there. And if somebody was looking to set him up, they would just take advantage of that. I think personally that he's guilty. And, the tool mark evidence is enough, but I'm not an expert. Hopefully, sometime after the 27th, we're going to have an expert on, and I'm going to debate him, from a point of ignorance, because I'm not a scientist. So and I'm always open to having my mind changed. And that's the whole point of it. It was being educated, right? Not lying to yourself and joining some kind of weird online cult. The goal is to find the truth, whatever that may be, even if it's at the behest of your own personal opinion of yourself. Absolutely, Hex. Because first and foremost, the murder seems pre-planned. Secondly, they described what a from did not. How did Richard Allen control two girls without tying them up? Everybody says, yeah, you can control people with a gun. Yeah, you can. You can control them to the point where you can kidnap them and take them to a secondary location. But when you get to slashing people, that changes everything. People are going to get up and run. They're not just going to stand there. Now, the only plausible explanation is that one of the victims passed out and became incapacitated. That's just not realistic. Every other case where you have multiple perpetrators, multiple victims, you have them some kind of a ligature mark, right? West Memphis 3, the boys were tied up. One of the boys almost got away. To chase the boy down and bring him back. So that thing happened with Delphi, but instead of 3 like West Memphis 3, there was 2 perpetrators, and that's why they attacked 2 victims. You know, not everybody is a Michael Klunder. Not everybody in their sick fantasy includes 2 victims. For Michael Klunder, I think for him it was, he always thought it would be his last time. So I don't think he specifically picked 2. I just think that he personally liked to overindulge. He's like, this could be my last time. I'm going to take 2 victims. I don't think it was part of his fantasy. I think it was just he's going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. No pun intended. But literally, that's what I think he was doing. Yeah, you're always welcome to come hang out here in Phoenix. Maybe you can be my first in-studio guest. I'm a little hesitant. So I've gone through a lot of the transcript, but I'm not going to bore you guys and just read through it. That's ridiculous. Each volume is about 300 pages long. You know, I'm just not going to do that to you. I'm not going to do it to myself, and I'm not going to do it to you. But thankfully, they gave us a table of contents. So if there's anything that you want to go through, you know, we can cherry pick. Some of the things that caught my attention were the hearing on the safekeeping order. I read that. I thought the Julie Melvin stuff was hilarious. To watch the defense team get embarrassed like that was, well, honestly, I was a little embarrassed for them and Julie. What's up, Inquisitive? Jari, She Warrior. Yeah, look here. Let's go through the table of contents here. Can you guys see that pretty good? So this is everything that's contained in the transcript. Pretty much everything. I mean, there's absolutely all of this stuff. We pretty much dissected this information. Like, who cares about Max Baker? Honestly. We can get into Gary Lewis if you want. Edward Twitter. The camera hearing on October 19, 2023, where I think that's the one where Goal actually approved cameras until the defense team went bad shit. Good to see you, CJK, Beth Gonzalez, Cindy Lean. Stephen Mullen, Jerry Holm, Detective Ben Rector. That's kind of a name. Ben Rector. It's a funny name. John Boren. The Julie Melvin stuff, we're getting to that right here. Direct examination of Julie Melvin. So this says volume 3, page 136. If that's where you guys are. So volume 3. So let me pull up volume 3. No, I think Gray Hughes did it. I think Frank Meister might have did it. Criminality. I couldn't sit through it. That's ridiculous. Each volume is like 300 pages, 250 pages. And a lot of it is redundant. So I didn't want to do that to you guys, honestly. Okay, so let's see. Direct examination of Julie Melvin, page 136. So let's go to page 136. This was a little entertaining. I will not lie. Gray Hughes doesn't count. Yeah, that's true. Why do you think Richard Allen disposed of his mobile phone? I don't know if he disposed of his mobile phone. I believe that he did. I believe that his mobile phone would provide all the evidence we needed to tie him to the case, 100%. But see, it's things like that, Hex, right? What happened to his phone? We don't know what happened to his phone. You cannot assume when you're dealing with somebody's guilt. You can't just assume because he doesn't have his phone that it contains valuable evidentiary information. That's just not necessarily true. His phone on purpose? Absolutely. But I think when you're dealing with a court of law, I think it should be handled kind of a lot like what happened with Karen Reed. Everybody knows that she hit John O'Keefe. I don't care if you're for Karen Reed. I don't care if you're not for. Because most of the people who are for Karen Reed are really for the process of if you can't prove it 100%, then you can't convict the people. And a lot of these pro-burger types, that's what they're trying to accomplish. They're like liberal Democrats. It's equity for them. It's not equality. It's equity. Richard Allen's not getting his equity. Just and I get it. All right. Are you guys saying I'm having bad audio? Oh, I know why. It's because I have my Discord up. Let me shut that down. That explains everything. All right. Direct examination. Wait, what happened? Page 176. Okay, now this is ridiculous. Now, and this is Hennessy here. I don't know what the hell is going on here, but this is sad. All right. Please state your full name. Julie Melvin. Do you know a Terry Williams? She says, yes. What? Yes. How do you know her? I met her through this case. I'm going to hand you what's marked as defendants L and ask if you can identify it. Yes. What is it? That's my phone record of phone calls that we had back in 2017. With Terry Williams? Yes. Mr. Henney says, oh, move to admit L. And this is where McClellan kind of gets pretty funny right here. Not a huge fan of McClellan because I don't trust him, but he's hilarious in the courtroom. McClellan says, Judge, I'm going to object. I don't know what relevance to the exhibit is. Phone records between Julie Melvin and a Terry Williams. He's like, what the fuck is this? What is this YouTube bullshit? And that's what it is. I don't know why the defense did that. They latched on to all the most fucked up YouTubers like Slow Joe and Julie Melvin. I don't understand why they did that. The court's like, how is it relevant, bro? Hennessy, well, the next sheet is a Facebook page, a shot of a Facebook page of Terry Williams. And it involves Terry Williams sharing with Miss Melvin confidential information about the investigation and from whom she received it. These are the other leaks, and the relevance against is to show that there's plenty of other sources not connected to. I mean, I'll tell you, I don't think the Westerman leak, Westerman's been connected to Andy by the evidence, but no knowledge of the leak. And so I'm asking to put in evidence. So he's trying to show there's other leaks. You know, it could have come from anywhere. There's leaks coming from everywhere. Why focus on the defense leaks? I'm asking to put in evidence of other leaks so that on the issue of contempt, that there's many other sources of information about the investigation. As the evidence goes on, there will be testimony that even the photos that they attribute to Mr. Westerman cannot have come from Mr. Baldwin's office. Goal. Do you have this Terry Williams here to testify? Mr. Hennessy says no. Oh, well, then I'd have to sustain the objection. Hennessy says, okay, show L offered, please. The court, I'm sorry. You're showing L as offered. It's in the record. It's marked, yes. Okay. You should give it to Jody. Very good. Can you identify then what Exhibit M is? Yes. And what is it? It's basically the accounting that Terry Williams gave to me on the phone, but it's written and she told it. Was that a Facebook post? Yes, by Terry. Mr. Hennessy is cut off. Mr. McClellan jumps in. Judge, I object on hearsay and also relevance. I guess I'm not sure of Mr. Hennessy's plan, but if his plan is to parade, and this part is awesome, plan to parade a bunch of podcasters and YouTubers up to the stand and talk about other leaks that has no relevance in what we're here to discuss today, Judge. We're here to discuss the information the state outlawed in the contemptuous information filed with the court. The fact that the defense believes there are other leaks and podcasters believe there are other leaks or YouTubers believe there are other leaks has no relevance to what we're here to discuss today, Judge. And so on. Those two objections, the state is objecting to the admission of those pieces of evidence. Mr. Hennessy says, well, number one, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Gold says, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt. Number one, it won't be a parade. So Hennessy is an asshole. I just want everybody to know he's very smug. He's very argumentative. And the proof is in this response here. Number one, it won't be a parade. Well, obviously he didn't mean an actual parade, dipshit. Because I'm going to call them one at a time. Well, obviously those are the rules. You can't call a group to testify. Number two, it's highly relevant, at least in my mind. It goes to the theory of the defense. Oh, and well, I've already explained why it's relevant to both the punishment and contempt. Okay. Mr. Hennessy says, I think at some point, if you get to the question of punishment, organizational math and what kind of damage or prejudice or harm has that caused versus leaks about the complete probable cause affidavit, the existence of a bullet at the crime scene, the recovery of the firearm at Mr. Allen's house, and it goes on and on. Goal says, all right, I'll sustain the objection. Have you followed the Delphi case? They ask Julie. She says, pardon? I said, have you followed the Delphi case? Yes. Did you grow up in Delphi? No. What county do you live in now? I live in Hamilton County. And have you seen postings of other evidence from the investigation? Mr. McClelland steps in. Objection. Judge again, relevance. I don't know what this has to do with the allegations outlined in the state's information. Well, if he can't and this is this is Hennessy being a dick. He says, well, if he can't understand it, doesn't mean it's not admissible. So he's saying it's not his problem that Mr. McClelland's a dipshit. You know, it doesn't mean that he gets to object. And the judge Gold says, back up, Hennessy. That's uncalled for, sir. He says, I'm sorry. Gold says, that's uncalled for. So he's getting hostile. So that's basically everything that's going on with Julie Melvin in a gist. They just kind of laugh her off the stand. Cindy with the super chat. Thank you. So I don't know what you guys want to look at. We're not going to read it all. Direct examination of Stephen Wood. And if you don't know who any of these people are, let me know. We can go over who they are in great detail. And then you can decide if you want to read the transcript on their testimony. But we have Jerry Holman, Bradley Rosie. Of course, we had Becky Patty and everybody else, right? Before we went live, I had just started reading the direct examination of Todd Click, if you guys want to. Julia, what's up? Defense clearly grasping at straws, honing in on YouTubers. What the absolute fuck? That's what I'm saying. It's extremely embarrassing. Like, Julie Melvin is nothing but a meddler and a rumor starter. You know, people trusted her because she's so close to Delphi and close to Cody Patty that they figured that she had inside information. But really, she was creating her own news. And the only reason that Becky Patty even got involved in YouTubers is because of Julie Melvin. You know, Julie was steering the narrative in a certain direction because she had bias and her own animosity against the Patties. That's where the seed was sowed when it comes to this hatred for the Patty family. It was all personal for Julie. And she dragged you into it. That's what it was all about. She started a whole... That's how I met Becky Patty. I met Becky Patty after I had Julie Melvin on my show. Julie Melvin came on my show and spewed a bunch of rumors, like a bunch of nonsense. And at that time, we were ignorant and we were desperate for any inside information. So we were just listening intently, wondering if any of it was relevant. Well, now we know none of it was relevant. As of right now, maybe later. Do you guys want to look into the direct examination of Todd Click? We can kind of go down the line if you want to. Julie, I bet Julie Melvin was elated to get her 15 minutes. Yeah, this is what it's all about for her. Her being involved, communicating with people like Rick Snay, passing crime scene photos, working with Hannah Shakespeare on the documentary, you know, just embedding herself into it all. You know, everybody has their own motivations, just like a serial killer does. You know, we all have our MO and our motivating factors. You know, just to get out of bed. in the morning. Like for me, I was hungover, got up, I just couldn't sleep. I was just thinking about the transcripts, and I said, fuck it. I'm going to wake up. It's trash day. Took out the trash, made some coffee, some English muffins, and went live. So we can start with Todd Click if you guys want to. BN Mama, what's up? Have a great day at work. Don't let the man get you down. So I say we look at Todd Click, but I already know what that says. We can look at the direct examination of Amber Holder. That should be interesting. Tony Leggett. Exhibits. Yeah, I make them extra crispy in the toaster, and I just lather them up. I turn them into chips. Roland Purdy, Kevin Murphy, Jerry Holman, John Gallipo, Dr. Monica Walla. So I vote either Todd Click or Monica Walla. What I've been doing, Julia, my healthy breakfast is this, right? I throw some English muffins in the toaster, and then some thinly sliced cheese, and then just egg whites, and then turkey bacon. Then I'll make a breakfast sandwich. Amber Holder feels like a warm-up for Click. All right, you guys are voting for Walla. Well, I guess we can start with Dr. Walla and then come back to Click and Amber. Yep, turkey bacon. And maybe a couple of slices of avocado. And if I'm feeling real froggy, I'll throw some hummus and spinach. But typically that doesn't go well with the English muffin. That'll be on toast. All right, Dr. Walla. So that's volume 5, page 71. Okay, so we'll go Walla, Amber Holder, and then Todd Click. Unless you guys change the trajectory. Okay, volume 5. What page did I say it was? 71. She says regular bacon. Yeah, I like ultra thin, sharp cheddar. I get all my cheese very thinly sliced. That seems to help. Over medium egg. I only do egg whites. Remember, I was having issues with my cholesterol. Got that all taken care of, but I don't want any of those issues coming back. Yeah, well done. You got to have it well done and crunchy. Okay, direct examination of Dr. Monica Walla. See, right here, I wish they would have given the dates and the context. Excuse me. I like Muenster. I call it Mexican cheese. But But yeah, that's my favorite. Or monster cheese. Mexican monster cheese. Because that's what my aunts and my grandma and everybody, that's what they used to cook with. Okay, go ahead and state your name, Monica Walla. And you're a psychologist, right? Yes. So calling you Dr. Walla is okay? Yes. All right, very good. Dr. Walla, spell your last name for the court reporter. Wala. Sounds like a radio station. Welcome back to WALA. And tell the judge where you work. Westville Correctional Facility. And what do you do there? I'm the lead psychologist. Were you specifically assigned by the administration there to basically treat Rick Allen? Yes. Okay, Richard Allen, sorry. Yes. Okay. And I may remind you to say yes or no a few times. Don't get upset with me. We're just trying to pick up a recording, okay? Yes. Yes. All right. And tell the judge how long you've worked as a psychologist at the prison. Since 2017. And did you work as an acting psychiatrist or a licensed psychiatrist anywhere before that? No. Basically, the prison life has kind of been your life in the medical psychiatric business, right? Yes. And in the context of you being his doctor, I guess, if you will, did that include communicating with him about private matters? Yes. Is that a part of your relationship with the patient? Yes. Is it part of your relationship with Mr. Allen? Yes. Personal matters also? Yes. And just general healthcare matters? Yes. Involving psychiatric issues as well? Yes. Did you have contact with him on a weekly basis, or how would you describe that? It varied over time. Initially, it was every day for about a month. Then it was maybe weekly for 4 months, and then it went back to daily. And just to kind of get cut to the chase, so early on, you're visiting him weekly, and that was during a time period where there really weren't any concerns about his general mental health. Is that fair? Yes. And then at one point, you said that there was about 4 months where it was daily. Well, the opposite. So initially, when he first arrived to the facility, he was seen every day for about a month. He was on suicide watch at that time. I'm sorry. And then when we took him off suicide watch in December of 2022, he was seen once a week up until April of 23. And then it was more intense. Yes. Yes or no, please? Yes. Okay. And then did it become daily, or how intense was it? Daily. And that was for about 4 months. I believe he ended up having daily contact with me or someone else until he left our facility. So from roughly April of 2022 to December of 2023. Says yes. All right. And now when you say with someone else, do you identify, or are there designated mental health providers other than doctors in the prison? Yes. Okay. And are those people basically just common lay people without psychiatric education? No. Educational backgrounds? They would be master's level therapist. Okay. And how many of those worked for you? Were underneath your Wallace says 4. Under your authority in the time that Rick was there, 4. And then do you have even a lower level of mental health provider? And I've seen all these acronyms in the guides. Behavioral Health Specialist, BHS, right? Yes. Now, do they have any what I'll call formal psychiatric training? Wallace says, yeah, bachelor's level, bachelor's in psychology. Okay, so when you say that people are having contact with him, in a general sense, it could be any of these 3 types of individuals, right? For the most part, yeah. Do the majority of these contacts occur with Mr. Allen while he's inside his cell? Hold on. Sorry, my wife is texting me. Do the majority of these contacts occur with Mr. Allen while he's inside his cell? So I would say a good portion of them would. So what we have, what we call rounds, is when one of the providers walks the ranges and speaks to people at their cell fronts. So at that point, that individual isn't pulled out of their cell. For Mr. Allen, I believe that was at least twice a week. And then we would offer at least once a week to come out of the cell. Okay. And so forgive me, but my view of this is one of these BHSs or maybe one of the other staff members walks down the hall and knocks on the cell door and says, "How are you feeling? Can I get anything for you?" Is that kind of a typical round? For the most part. Okay. We want to look into, where their head's at. Any thoughts of self-harm, suicide? Okay. You're talking to somebody through a metal door, right? Yeah. And the little slit that they get fed through, right? And through the crack of the door. Okay. Do you open the cuff port every time you talk? No. You can't open it. So you don't even get to do that. Shaking your head no? No. So the mental health intervention, I shouldn't say intervention. The mental health contact at the cell basically is you talking through a crack in the door. Yes. And when you met with Rick the first time, do you remember that meeting? Yes. The first time you met with him? Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. Was that contact in the cell or was it outside of the cell? It was in a different area. So it was a barred cell and I was outside. Okay. And he was inside. So I got to see him. There's not much of a barrier. So it was not a cell in A-107? No. Oh, I know I was struggling earlier. Now I know what I was going to ask you. When these contacts occur at the cell door through the crack, those are part of mental health providers doing rounds throughout the rest of the facility, right? So let's take a quick pause right there. I want to see what you guys are talking about in the chat. Yeah, that does slap. Cindy, hey. Oh, yeah, she's ready to pop, Cindy. Okay. So you might go check on several dozen inmates in a day and do a round. Yes, I mean, there's 255 roughly apparently in that unit. Do you acknowledge that generally? If you did the math, I through 14 times 4 in one pod, and there's 4 pods. 4 pods. Okay, so when you do those rounds, you're talking to dozens of people in a day, right? Right. You can't sit there for hours, even lengthy periods of time, and communicate with inmates, can you? So Richard Allen's defense team is doing a good job here. But it has nothing to do against the prosecution or anything really, but being against the system that's in place. And I don't think that helps Richard Allen. I don't think you're going to be able to take on the system during the Richard Allen trial. By trying to take on the system, you're negating your own client. So I think that was an awful strategy. Back to the first contact. So you recall that being in the WCU unit, yes. And you recall moving Mr. Allen from his cell to, well, he was there when I arrived. That's where he was placed. Okay, so he was placed in a holding area where you meet with patients. Or I should say, yeah, patients on a routine basis. They let me know when he was there. Okay, and we talked about that particular setting, right? I think so. When I took your deposition. Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. Or no. Okay, well, get to that in a minute. When you first met with him, did you have him sign any documents? I may not have. He arrived to us on suicide watch from RDC, and he would have signed the documentation there. So if he was already in the suicide watch condition, he wouldn't have had a pen or anything to sign with. So the answer is you did not, right? No. Because he couldn't have a pen? Right. When he hit the doorstep at Westville, correct? Correct. So did you review the documents that he signed from RDC, reception, diagnostic center? Briefly. Okay, what would those documents entail? Just a quick intake, background information. My recollection is these are the basic rules, and you have him check some boxes and then you sign. He signs his name. If you're talking about the limits of confidentiality form, then yes. Okay, well, tell judge what you did. You did with him in terms of his discussing with him his confidentiality issues. I don't know if I really addressed confidentiality that first day. Okay, when they're on suicide watch, it's more of an emergent situation. So sometimes those documents are bypassed until the individual is off the suicide watch. Okay, when were they done in this case? I believe we kept Mr. Allen on for about a month at that time. Well, when were these, I'm going to call them consents or whatever, signed by Mr. Allen in that case? Couldn't tell you. I mean, the ones that he signed at RDC still carry over and they are relevant for our facility as well. Okay, what do those waivers say about confidentiality? They let the individual know that there was 8 things, and all those 8 things pertain to harm of self, harm of others, harm towards anything in the facility. And if they refer to any of those things, that we would have to tell someone. Okay, basically that if they're putting somebody else in danger, that you have an obligation to report him. Yes. Otherwise, the report suggests that the communication with him are confidential, right? Yes. Strictly? Yes. Okay, nothing else? There may be a blurb about group therapy, and one chooses to engage in that. Okay, it wasn't an option for Mr. Allen. No chance at group therapy, right? No. All right. Let's talk about the circumstances in his cell. You're generally familiar with those because you visited, right? Yes. Visited, I'm sorry. Shaking your head, yes. Yes. Earlier, I asked Warden Galeppo. I believe he suggested there was about an 8 by 12 cell. Does that sound correct? Sounds correct. He spent 7 days a week in the cell, right? Yes. And from what I've heard, different stories on this. But how many hours of rec a week do you think he got in rec? Rec is supposed to be 3 times a week. Okay, and that's if you're not on suicide watch, right? We did modify his plan while he was on suicide watch to include rec. Whether or not that was carried out, that's on the custody staff there. But I believe on our orders, we would put allow rec. Let's go to the chat. I didn't know this was Wallace's first big girl job. Don't know if I'm impressed or shocked. Dark Side, what up? Cheeks, what up? Good to see you. Okay, in situations, if he didn't have a smock, it would be inappropriate to just come out wearing, just a smock and have everybody observe you. Part of being on suicide watch is wearing a smock. Yes. Is that accurate? Correct. And is it accurate to say that the smock is basically a gown that's thrown over the body of the inmate to simply just cover kind of their bare essentials? Yeah. I refer to it as a caveman garment. I think you did. And you didn't disagree with me, did you? No. And one of the problems with wearing that is that your privates can be exposed fairly easily, right? Yeah, they can be. And going to rec and having activities in one way that can happen. Yes. So it's a deterrent for recreation. Yes. Forgive me for a second. I'm just going to get my calculator out here. How long is a rec session? I don't know. I heard an hour. Does that sound right or not? I don't know. Do you think it's longer than that? I believe guys can get stuck in rec if staff don't take them out in time. Okay, so they can go out there and they could kind of not get out because of other administrative issues. Yes. If in fact it was an hour, basically the inmate would have 3 or 4 hours out of a week, right? Yes. I did the math. It's about around 2% of the time. The total time in a week that somebody would be afforded rec. Do you have any reason to dispute that math? Not necessarily. Miss Diener, Judge, may I object? And I really don't want to in the context of this hearing, but we're talking about rec. with his psychologist, and I'm just not sure it's relevant to what she can provide to the subject matter we're here for. We had the warden here for Judge Gols's relevancy. So they're basically trying to get to the fact that Richard Allen was being tortured, is what they're trying to imply here. Rosie says, Judge, she intimately familiar with his detention circumstances. She's already described that she visited his cell 2 days a week. I know from deposing her that she spent time with him there on the unit. So I think she's got firsthand knowledge. So I don't think it's Goal says, but she just said, I don't know how long rec is. Rosie says, I understand. The court says, no, I don't know about rec. Rosie says, I'm sorry. So move on. I'll sustain the objection. Rosie says, I'm going to move on from the rec thing. I thought she was talking about in general. That's what she said. I don't know how long rec is. Rosie, okay, thank you. So he's like trying to testify for her, and Goal isn't having it. He's trying to put words in her mouth and just kind of flow along with this narrative, but she wasn't having it. Did you observe any of the video from Mr. Allen's cell at any time while he was housed there? I probably did. Okay, I saw in some of the video that he did a lot of pacing back and forth, back and forth. Is that something you're familiar with? Yeah. That's one of the ways that inmates can pass time. Yes. And it's do you agree that it's very monotonous activity? Yes. And do you agree that one of the forms of, I was going to say recreation, I guess some ways they're in their cell, right? Yeah, it could be. How many steps would you think it is from one end of the cell to the other? 15? Okay, so back and forth, 15 steps, right? 15 one way, 15 back. That's just a guess. And you're aware that those cells have lighting? Yes. And did you tell me that you believe that those lights were on all night long in some form? I do recall Mr. Allen telling me about light and that he didn't want to turn off. Because he was worried he'd get in trouble. I don't know if that's different from a light that is normally on, so it's not pitch black. So Rosie's basically trying to say that you shouldn't be punished in jail. That you shouldn't have subpar human conditions, or otherwise it's torture, right? He wants you to be at the Marriott Hotel type prison, or else you're being tortured. I guess what's the punishment in that, right? Now, when they're on suicide watch, strike that. I mean, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead and finish. No, you go on. When they're on suicide watch, they have lights on in their cell at all time, right? That's probably ideal in that situation. Do you recall telling me that you didn't believe that he had any ability to control the lights? I don't think he did. Okay, that sounds accurate, right? Yes. Somebody else deals with all that. Yes. And you told me that there's no privacy at all in that cell, is there? No. Okay, there was a window in his cell. Do you recall that? Yes. Do you recall that being a problem when he got there in terms of his ability to see outside? Yes. Okay, what was the problem? It was scratched up, so he couldn't see out of it. And did you look at the window, confirm that he was telling you the truth? Yes. And do you think it needed replaced? Yes. And the prison accommodated that, right? Yes. So look, everything that Richard Allen's complaining about, I can't see out my damn window, they replaced it for him. Now his view outside of that cell is basically a barbed wire fence, isn't it? I think so. Well, I mean, there's a fence around the WCU, right? Mm-hmm. Yes or no? Yes, dumbass. It's got its own special fence, doesn't it? Yes, with barbed wire on top, right? Yes. What a stupid question. Beyond that is just a view of the rest of the prison, isn't it? Yes. Okay, so Richard Allen doesn't have an amazing view from his jail cell. He booked the wrong hotel room. This isn't the suite I ordered. I want to speak to the manager. Do you acknowledge that he was sleeping on a mattress that really was on the floor? Yes. And do you acknowledge that that's where he ate his dinners and lunches? Yes. On the floor, on the mattress? Yes. And do you acknowledge that there were times when he was even fighting with bugs while he was there? This is what he told me. Okay, and that's something that you're familiar with at the prison, isn't it? Yes. That problem, yes or no? Yes. So he's bringing up systemic problems like he's using Richard Allen to put up the fight. And what he doesn't realize, even if that fight was to take hold, it would shadow Richard Allen. He's not defending Richard Allen. He's trying to put the system on trial. Bad move, in my opinion. Well, those kind of things can cause a man to go crazy, can't they? So that means that everybody in jail is just completely crazy, right? Is what Rosie's trying to say. Crazy, I mean. What do you say? I'm saying, I mean, it depends on what you mean by crazy. Oh, but yes, it can be distressing. Do you acknowledge that he was in the most isolated circumstances at that prison? Walla answers, there are 3 other cells that are very similar. Okay, so if the 255 in the WCU, there's 4? Yes. That are similar to that? Right. Yes. No others that are isolated and that's secure, right? There's one that is similar on the infirmary. Okay. We'll talk about that in a minute. We talked about that in the deposition, right? Apparently, Wallace shaking her head. Shaking your head, yes. Wallace says yes. Do you acknowledge that one of the problems that existed while he was in that facility is that a lot of other inmates were yelling at him routinely? That's what they do in prison. She says yes. Tell the judge what kind of things they would say to him. Kill yourself. Do you remember them calling him baby killer? Sounds about right. Okay, that was something that persisted over time, wasn't it? Yes. It bothered you, didn't it? Yes. We talked about how noisy it is in those units, didn't we? Yes. Yes or no? Yes. And do you agree that it's extremely noisy on those units? Yes. And that noise adds additional stressors to the inmates. Oh no. God forbid you kill 2 young girls and you end up in a place where people are tormenting you. Trust me, it's going to get worse when you die. There's going to be a hell of a lot more torment for you to cry about. He would tell me sometimes yes, and you believed him, didn't you? Yes. Did you evaluate? Strike that. Are you familiar generally with Rick's medical history when he entered the prison? Cardiac issues? She says cardiac issues. Okay, were you familiar with Rick's psychiatric history when he entered the prison? Depression, yeah. Okay, so let me back up. I'm getting ahead of myself. With regard to the medical, you're aware that he had heart-related issues? Yes. And with regard to his psychiatric situation, do you acknowledge or was there an intake done of him at RDC? Yes. Okay, were you part of that intake? No. All right. And would that intake at RDC involve any formal testing of his psychiatric circumstances? No. If I described it as basically a sit-down interview with him, going through some questions, checking some boxes, is that what happened? Yes. That's what would normally happen, right? Yes. It's not a real clinical process, is it? It's still a clinical process. It's just structured interview. 15 or 20 minutes, maybe. Yeah. And do you acknowledge that his intake form mentioned that he had major depressive disorder? I believe so. And do you acknowledge that major depression disorder can be defined as a serious mental illness? Not per our standards. Okay, what are the standards of the DSM Access 4? I'd have to disagree. Okay, we're going to get back to that in a minute. Okay. Serious mental illness, SMI, is a distinction or a phrase of art in your business, right? Right. Okay, and you acknowledge that Rick had reported to prison officials at his intake that he had a long history of suffering from depression? Yes. It went all the way back to his early adulthood. Yes. And that he had been suffering from depression for about 8 to 9 years prior to his admission to the prison? Yeah, this is a pretrial hearing. What's up, J. Ray? Yes, and then he was even hospitalized at one point in 2019, more than a week to address those conditions. Okay, so look, it looks like his hospitalization was in 2019. So that's interesting to know that Richard Allen was hospitalized in 2019. That's what he told me. And you didn't have any reason to disbelieve that, did you? No. And that he had been taking, do you acknowledge that he was taking psychotropic medications back at age 25? Yes. See, the thing is that they think that they're helping Richard Allen, but through this entire process, I think the profile of Abby and Libby's killer was somebody who was suffering from mental health issues, right? So they think they're helping Richard Allen, but really, in my opinion, they're describing exactly what we've been looking for this entire time. Somebody who suffers from mental health issues and who was dealing with a number of stressors before the crime. And that describes Richard Allen to a T. Do you acknowledge that his file indicated that he had risk factors for suicidal ideation back in time before he was admitted? I believe so. Let's talk about that real quick. Well, actually, we'll get to that in a minute. Do you acknowledge that his record reflected that he also had generalized anxiety disorder? Yes. And I think did you acknowledge that you told me at one point that you actually thought he probably suffered from dependent personality disorder as well? It's a possibility. Okay, you saw a lot of those characteristics, some of the traits, which is that when you separated from the people that you love, it can impact your mental health more than just the normal person, right? For those individuals, yes. Okay, and he was one of those people, wasn't he? Possibly. Okay, now remember this, guys. Just before the murders happened, now remember, we've had multiple doctors diagnose Richard Allen with a dependent personality disorder, with Kathy, his wife, being the target of that disorder. Now, Kathy, shortly before the murders of Abby and Libby, Kathy's brother passed away, and local sources that I established told me that she was self-medicating and wasn't spending a whole lot of time with Richard Allen. So these guys are trying to make a case that Richard Allen is giving false confessions and things like that. But the truth is they're describing Abby and Libby's killer, right? If he has a personality disorder and he might fly off the handle, if he can't have contact with this individual that he's dependent on, that he's kind of latched onto, and that it might have an effect on him more than the average person. So that's what was happening before the murders of Abby and Libby. If Richard Allen had a dependent personality disorder and he's latched on to Kathy Allen, well, she was pushing him away right before the murders. She didn't want anything to do with him. She just wanted to do her own thing. So they're describing the killer without even realizing it. Possibly. Okay. Based on what you knew about his relationship with his wife. Yes. But that's a formal diagnosis in your industry, isn't it? It is. And I think he was labeled, if I recall, as a code D or something like that, is what I saw on the record. Yes. And you can jump in here, but am I correct in saying that you have 6 designations, A, B, C, D, and E, and then there's this kind of an F it's its own, right? Yes. But an A through E are the designations. Is it accurate to say those are the designations that define the significance of his current state of mental health? Yes. Or the acuteness? Yes. Is that a better way of putting it? You're shaking your head. Yes. Yes. And he was a D, right? Correct. So an A would be the least acute. I guess that's the right phrase, correct? Yes. And then a D would be, would be the most acute, right? Yes, somebody who would have to transfer out of a traditional facility. Okay, and then he was just right next door to that. He was a D. Yes. If you were going to transport somebody out, would you transport them to a place like Newcastle, which is designed to treat mental illness? Usually Newcastle. We have 3 different facilities we can choose. Okay, I mean, Newcastle's kind of the sister ship. I don't know if that's the right phrase when it comes to mental health treatment in the DOC, right? It's where we send the most motherships, what I meant to say. Okay, is that fair? Is that where we send the most acute patients? Okay. So he was, from a mental health standpoint, he was fragile when he was admitted, yes. And then on top of that, he was detained in this solitary situation, right? Yes. And then on top of that, he was being accused of killing 2 young girls, right? Yes. So describe him as an eggshell inmate, somebody who was very thin in terms of the state of mental health is accurate, isn't it? Sure. But what they're not adding is that that's probably the case with most killers, similar to Richard Allen. Let's talk about his offender status, his inmate status at the prison. Okay, are you aware of any documented records? Am I being redundant? Are you aware of any records that suggest that he's having suicidal ideations when he was admitted to prison? I want to say, if I'm remembering correctly, they documented what he was not actively suicidal, but that he is just high risk. Okay. Placed on suicide watch. Again, restrictions, privileges limited. Trying to get to his confession. So was he on either constant supervision or close watch? I think are the phrases you use. Yes. And that went on until at least into late December. I think it was early December. Early December? I think so. Early to mid. And at some point, he was stepped down to a 15-minute observation. Is that correct? Suicide cell the whole time. All right, this stuff's getting redundant. So we know about all of this. And so I think we're going to skip all this. Yeah, there's nothing new here. Okay. I do think I did. I do recall our very first meeting when Mr. Allen was telling me that they were asking him a bunch of questions, which is not, it does not violate the rules of the program. A lot of times we have little control over all of, because there's not another person that's watching them. So who can confirm that it's happening? So is it accurate to say that you're trusting felons to watch the inmate, Mr. Allen, in this case? That's the way the system works. Not a very good system, right? Could be better. And is it accurate to say that those inmates were ultimately, I don't want to say fired, but they were let go of their duties for disclosing these confidences? I believe when he went on suicide watch in April is when it switched over to officer watch. Are you aware that it is accurate that those inmates were relieved of their duties? Is that fair? I don't know to what extent, whether they were still allowed to continue elsewhere or with other individuals, but they were obviously not working with Mr. Allen anymore. Would you have more knowledge about the inmate companion program than the warden? It's a DOC program right now, and I think since Mr. Allen left, they made it a whole job. So now they're just hiring the incarcerated individuals into these positions. I know that they receive training every 6 months, and that's about it. Are they paying them? They are paying them. Do you know if they were paying them when Rick Allen was there? That was when it was the Plus program, which I believe you got paid when you're in programming. So they probably did get paid. So these were jobs. These people had, yes. Just within the walls of the prison, yes. And this is kind of an outlier issue. But I asked you about outsiders having contact with Mr. Allen while he was in prison. Do you remember me genuinely asking you about that? Can you be more specific? Yes, I can. Thank you. I saw a record that in March of 2023, there was a forensic psychologist from the state police that wanted to talk with Rick Allen. Are you familiar with that record? I do remember that instance, yes. Okay, were you involved generally with the instance, just the passage of information? I don't remember the details. Let's go to the chat real quick. So the doctors who are diagnosing him with dependent personality disorder, claiming that they believe the personality disorder would have been in play at the time of the crime, are only post-arrest. Yeah, way before the time of the crime. And they're saying that they exploited his medical issues basically to get him to falsely confess or to torture him. So they're basically saying that they knew he had depression, anxiety, and this dependent personality disorder, and they exploited it to generate a false confession, is what they're getting at. All right, let me skip all of this. Sorry, guys, I just don't feel like reading all this crap. Let's talk about this therapy sessions. Have you ever in course responsibility? So these are just systemic questions. I want to get to the meat and potatoes. These are all like hypotheticals. It's just blah, 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 blah. Was he in a cage? What, how big was it? Okay, here we go. And do you acknowledge in the course of your therapeutic endeavors that sometimes there's literature that you can offer up to patients to assist them with their mental health problems? Okay, and do you acknowledge that literature can be specific to whatever their needs are? Yes, and was it routine, or should just ask the simple question? Did you ever provide Rick Allen with any literature for therapeutic reasons? Yes, okay, what was that? I remember providing handouts on depression and anxiety, the Man's Search for Meaning book, and then the crossword puzzles and things like that. You recall giving him some colored pencils and crayons? I don't know if I gave him those. You told me that that's what you do, but I'm also sometimes, yeah, we do. I just don't remember specifically doing it. How so, J. Ray? Wouldn't they be relative and somebody who might have committed a murder too? So it's accurate to say that your mental health endeavors with Rick Allen and other inmates at this prison are basically limited to the administration of prescription drugs, conversations with the inmates, and discussing suicidal issues with them. In a restrictive housing situation where we're limited, yeah. Yeah, those three things are kind of big ones, right? Yes. Did you ever talk to Rick Allen about the exceptions to the doctor-patient privilege under Indiana law? I don't think so. Okay, do you know what those exceptions are? Are you just referring about the HIPAA confidentiality? Yeah, let me ask a better question. There's a doctor-patient privilege between you and Rick, which means you can talk about anything he says, right? Right. That's the underlying law in the state and probably most other states. Yes, there are exceptions to that rule, right? Yes. What are those exceptions? Harm to self, others, or property. Any other exceptions that you're aware of? Other more specific exceptions would be things like if they report drug trafficking, the sexual abuse of a child in the community at present that they may know about, or we have to intervene from the inside, inappropriate relationships with staff. Did you talk to him about any of those things? He had to have signed the form with me at some point. I'm asking you, did you talk to him about them? I generally do. Do you know if you talked to him? Do you remember that? I don't remember doing it. Sorry, they just spend 3 pages talking about like a program, how they take notes. Okay, let's talk about Rick's general state of mental health while he was at the prison. Do you recall that when he was admitted to the prison that he was generally proclaiming his innocence? Yes. And he did that with you routinely? Yes. And do you recall, is it accurate to say that you observed him as being selfless and very focused on making sure that his wife's needs were met? Yes. That's a particular note that you made about him. Is that accurate? It's accurate. Does that also play a little bit into this dependent personality syndrome that you recognize traits of? The answer is yes. Do you recall in late December of 2022, shortly after he was admitted, that he was starting to express to you that he was being treated worse than other offenders in that prison? Yes. And do you recall acknowledging that it was reasonable for him to perceive things that way under his circumstances? Yes. Do you recall in March of 2023 that he started to communicate to you that he wasn't feeling right in the head, that he was starting to struggle with things that were going on in his brain? Yes. And do you recall him around that time reporting to you that he was becoming depressed and withdrawn? Yes. Do you recall acknowledging that you weren't sure what was going on with him at that point? Well, his baseline is generally depression, so at that point it wasn't too far out of what was normal for him. Do you recall a specific report, though, that you had mentioned, I'm not really sure what the problem is? It's possible. Do you recall reporting that on April 4th of 2023 that his state of mental health was extremely poor, critical, and deteriorating? What was the date? April 4th. Yes. Do you recall on that day reporting that he had engaged in recent suicidal or self-injurious ideations? Yes. Delusions, fatalistic delusions or fantasies? Yes. Do you recall reporting that he believed that death would bring relief to him? Yes. That he was hopeless? Yes. That he was suffering from insomnia? Yes. And poor appetite? Yes. Do you recall reporting that he was struggling with self-esteem? Yes. And other ailments, right? Yes. There was a whole laundry list of them, correct? Yes. Do you recall reporting on April 12th that his behaviors were becoming more bizarre? Yes. And some of that involved banging his head on the wall and kicking doors and becoming self-injurious. Is that the right word? Yes. And then do you recall reporting on April 13th that he was suffering from a grave disability? You used those words. I'd have to read my note to see, but I believe that. Mr. Rosie says, 1 second, Your Honor. May I approach? You may. I just want to clarify. Ma'am, I'm doing this the old-fashioned way. I just printed this stuff out. Let me direct your attention to part of one of your depositions, page 136. You want to look at the cover page, so your page 136 and specifically lines 8 through 11. Did you tell me he was suffering from a grave disability? Yes. Do you recall reporting at that time, April 13th, that he was consuming his own feces? Yuck. And that it was time to consider voluntary or involuntary psychotropic medication? Yes. Basically, you got to stick a needle in him? Yes. And in fact, he was later approved for that? Yes. When I say approved, there's a committee, treatment team that meets? Yes. And says, okay, we need to stick a needle in him? Yes. That's what happened? Yes. More than once. There's a distinction between emergent, involuntary, and involuntary. So this would have been involuntary, where we went through the hearing and everyone agreed that this would be a normal injection he would receive every 2 weeks or every 4 weeks. Emergent, I believe he also received. This is more of a one-time thing. So when he was banging his head and he wouldn't stop, that's when we would have given him a shot just for that one incident. Is there any distinction of the type of needle you stick in him? No. It's all the same, right? Yes. Okay. Do you recall April 21st articulating in your medical records that he might be incompetent to stand trial? You had that discussion with him. We talked about it, but I think I was just trying to explain it to him because obviously we can't make that determination. We are not the ones to make that determination. Okay. You had that conversation with him, right? Some kind of conversation about it, yes. Well, to be fair, I'm going to let you review your conversation. Let me direct your attention to page 154 of part of one of your depositions, specifically line 10. Do you see that? Miss Diener interjects. Mr. Rosie, what date of her report is that referring? Let me go back and look here. Would you hold this for a second? She's acknowledging that it was April 21st. Sorry. Do you recall having this discussion with him about the fact that he might be incompetent to stand trial? Possibly. It's kind of vague. I mean, I know we've touched on it, but it was more so allowing him to know that that's not going to be something that we would determine at the facility. Okay, so the question I asked was, and then in the next paragraph down, you were engaged in a discussion with him about, hey, you might be incompetent to stand trial. That might be one of our evaluations moving forward. And your answer is, yeah, I did say that, right? I guess so. Okay, I mean, we don't have to mince words, but you had that conversation with him. There was a conversation. So in a way, people are accusing Walla of coaching Richard Allen about this white van, right? Kind of giving him these ideas. But the truth is, she might be the one that's giving him the ideas to act crazy. Like, hey, there's a chance you could be incompetent to stand trial. So that could have made him step up his efforts for malingering and feigning these issues, faking the illnesses. Do you recall reporting that his thoughts were disjointed and that he was saying bizarre things? Yes. And that on May 3rd, do you recall reporting that he said he wanted to confess? If that's what I wrote, yes. Okay, and that he started telling a story about how he did the crime. Yes, and this occurred when he was in the cage? Yes. And are you pretty sure that you wrote some of that down? Yeah, I think I wrote some of it down. And you would have destroyed those notes too? Yes. Is it accurate to say that you reported in your medical records, your psychiatric records, that it was difficult to tell when he was being honest with you and when he was not? See, what Wall is reporting is that Richard Allen is a manipulator. That's what I'm hearing. That it was difficult to tell when he was being honest with you and when he was not. There were times I questioned it. During this April timeframe, even then, and in May of 2023, yes. Do you recall reporting that in May 17th of 2023? That there was an increase, a slight increase, you said, in his disorganized thinking and paranoia? Yes. And then on May 18th, you reported there were more injections. Does that sound accurate? We're into May now. If it was his next routine injection, maybe. Do you want me to show you my questions here? Sure. Just to make sure we're accurate. Page 177 of the deposition. Are injections pretty rare at the prison? Numbers wise, I mean, yeah, it's not common. We have them, obviously, but it's just maybe a dozen people at most out of 3,000. Say that again. A dozen people out of 3,000. Did you tell me that it might happen once a year? Something like that? So that's more of an emergent situation. Okay. Where someone's actively engaging in self-harm and must be stopped in that moment. So it's not like a one-time shot, which we had here. We did also have that. So these are the most severe consequences in terms of intervention. And is that accurate? Yes. In the mental health field, with the exception of restraints. We didn't do restraints. Okay. You recall telling me that, or do you recall reporting that on May 18th, or at around that time, that he was ramming his head into the wall? Yes. You recall there being a report on May 22nd, 2023, that he was having breaks of psychotic reactions to stress. Yes. Do you recall reporting on June 8th of 2022 that his depression had reached its peak or was at its peak, and that he was suffering from physiological symptoms such as trembling, knees buckling, and stuttering? That was happening, yes. Do you recall that, well, a report regarding June 16th that you hit him with another injection, that he was injected again? If it's a monthly injection, yes. I did write down anything I noted that was strange. Yeah, that his eyes were bulging out of his head at one point, right? Yeah. That you thought that was a significant enough to report. Yeah, I reported it. And then there was a report generated on November 22nd of 2023, a discharge plan referencing his suicide watch for the past 6 months. That would be accurate, right? Yes. And there was a reference to his earlier stress-induced psychosis. Those were the words, yes. And his vegetative symptoms of depression, right. Do you recall during that time when you reported that he was escorted from his cell while these inmates continued to yell at him? You made a specific note that day that, hey, they're badgering him, right? That's my word, not yours, correct? Correct. Calling him the same kind of names that they had earlier, yes. Oh my gosh. There were other psychiatric reports that were prepared by the treatment team and by maybe Dr. Martin, if I'm not mistaken. All right, I'm going to skip all of this stuff. I mean, it's just redundant. Diagnosed as being psychotic. There was a report that we talked about where he was observed as having disorganized speech, grossly disorganized, and catatonic behavior, right? Yes. Um, Schrodinger's, well, the doctor is supposed to influence him. Just not the case. She's supposed to have some kind of an impact on his mental well-being. So she's supposed to influence him in some way. So most of this information we know. So I don't know, guys. I'm just not going to keep reading through this. I'm going to have to go through all the documents and pinpoint certain areas. But if there's anything that you want to kind of look at now before we get out of here, we can. If there's anything that there's nothing really new that I've seen so far. I think we already read the Perlmutter transcript. So I think next time we go live on this, we'll talk about Amber Holder. We'll go through these. Kevin Murphy. Todd Click. David Vito for sure. Cecil. Roland Purdy. Patrick Cicero. Thomas Plants. I don't remember that person. Becky Patty, Kelsey. Derek German. Anna Williams. Jake Johns. Darren Giancola. So yeah, there's a lot we have to go over. I just don't want to read it verbatim. We'll be here for hours. I mean, it's already been an hour and a half, and we really haven't touched on anything that we didn't already know. Jeremy Chapman. Rayleigh Voorhees. Yeah, definitely. You guys read all of this so we can talk about it. I mean, I'm not going to read it all online, you know. Elizabeth Blair, Brienne Wilbur. Like that'd probably be good on part 2. Go through all of the witness testimony. Here, let's pull up Rally Voorhees, Volume 12. We'll take a quick look. Page 135. Okay, you said on your way to the high bridge you saw a man walking his dog. Yes. Which direction was the man walking his dog? I think that was Jake Johns. He was walking towards Freedom Bridge while I was walking towards High Bridge. Okay, opposite direction. Correct. You spent your time at the High Bridge. You're walking back. Yes. Toward town. Yes. Do you and your friends make stops along the way? Yes, we stopped at a bench to take some pictures. And do you recall how far down the trail you were when you stopped to take pictures of the bench? I don't recall exactly how far it was, but I know that the barn with the green roof was in the background of the pictures. So it was along there, that would be where that would be. And so would that be in the section between the High Bridge and the Mears entrance? Are there houses or buildings along the area behind the trail in that area? Can you show the entrance again? I believe it would be slightly past that entrance. So over in this direction, yes. So it was way further down, almost leaving the trail. And so you stopped at a bench to take pictures? Yes. If there was a building in the background that had a green roof, were you on a bench on the north side of the trail or the south side of the trail? The north side. Do you see the building with the red roof in the particular picture? Do you know where it is? The green roof? Or the green roof, sorry. I believe so. And can you come down and show us where that is? I believe it would be this building right here. Okay, so you're pointing at this one right here. Yes, let's use the pointer. So you can back up to make sure that the jury sees the whole thing. I believe it's this building right here. Okay, so that looks like it's a farm building, the green roof, and it was in the background of the picture where you gave your, well, in relationship to that building and that bench. Did you see the bridge man, the bridge guy after that photograph? Yes, it was after. And so it had to be somewhere between the green roof building and the plaza? Yes. Okay. The particular picture that you took that had that building in the background, who was in the picture? I believe it was a picture of Bree and I, and part of my sister was cut off on the left side. Okay, do you think Bree also had pictures of that? It's very possible. Okay, you can have a seat. When you were giving your statement to police, was there any other man that you saw between the green roof building and the plaza? No, I only saw one person on the way out. And that was the man you identified as Bridge Guy? Correct. Had you ever given a statement to police before? I do not believe so. Had you ever been asked to estimate someone's height? No. Had you ever been asked to estimate someone's weight? No. Had you ever been asked to estimate a distance? No. Makes you wonder, why didn't these things happen? Here, let me see if I have a link for you. Boom, boom, boom. Let's see if I bookmarked it. I don't know if I can share it. It was shared with me, but I don't see an option to share it. Here, let me test out this link and see if it works. Hey, I guess it works. All right, there you go. You know, I'm not going to read it word for word, though, Cindy. So if you guys want to go click on that link, and it should take you there. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe not. Did you have the benefit of having something with you that had a timestamp that would tell you when a particular picture was taken or when you saw Bridge Guy? I do not believe during my statement I did not have access to any timestamps. Okay, you indicate that you saw the Bridge Guy when you were walking toward town. Which way is the Bridge Guy walking? Towards the High Bridge. So when you saw this picture of Bridge Guy in the media, was it shortly after the girls were found? Yes. And at that time, did you have any doubt that this was the person you saw? No. I would say I was certain that that was the man that I walked past. So this is how we know that Richard Allen is the Bridge Guy. There's no doubt about it. The bullet just seals the deal for me. Exactly, Cindy. That's all we're going to do. And after time, we'll be able to pinpoint all the information that's new to us or that was misquoted. So this is the proof. We have these witnesses who say the man that they saw was the Bridge Guy. And Richard Allen admitted to being that guy. I mean, if he wouldn't have admitted to that, it might be a little bit tougher. They may not have had probable cause. But in Richard Allen's mind, his math isn't mathing. He thinks that maybe people already knew who he was. They might have identified him. They might have seen him. So he has to admit to those things, because if he doesn't, it's going to make him look guilty. So he's just sticking to his narrative. You know, he worked out the ins and outs of his story, and he's doing his best to stick to it while making calculations. But he's way off, right? He didn't have any reason to admit to seeing anybody there. But the truth is, in his mind, he's so worried that those girls might identify him. They saw me, I saw them. So I'm going to admit to seeing them because there's nothing wrong with being on the trails. I always go to the trails. I'll admit to that part, but I'll deny having anything to do with the murders. But not realizing that admitting to that, he's establishing the timeline for the killer. Cindy says Tom Webster has docs too on his page. He's not reading them, but you can get them there too. J Ray says the link worked. All right, there you go. The link is linking. Oh, there you go. There you have it. You got it, Cindy. So you guys give those a look-see. We'll probably go live again later tonight after I get a chance to kind of pinpoint some of the valuable information, things that we might not know. Otherwise, it's just redundant. No, I would say I was certain that that was the man that I walked past. So the witnesses are saying the guy I saw on the trails, the moment I saw the Bridge Guy, there's my guy. That's the creep that we saw. Remember the guy that was in a hurry, who was rude, who didn't say hi to us, who was covering his face? That's the man they're looking for. And that's the man that Richard Allen admitted to being. And this picture doesn't help you with anything about his face other than maybe that he's Caucasian, does it? No. Is this picture similar to the person that you saw in any way other than clothing? Is there anything about this that causes you to conclude that it's the person you saw? No. Excuse me. The picture you saw influenced your memory, right? I can say with confidence that the person in the picture is the person I walked past. Okay, and I appreciate that. But my question is, the picture that you saw influenced your memory. It's possible, yes. And I'm showing you States Exhibit 210. You say black jeans, correct? That is what I said. You said a black coat. Here, let me pull this up. I don't think I have Exhibit 210, but I'm sure it's something similar to this. This is 221. Okay. So that is what you said. You said black coat. That is what I said. Blue hat. It was. I believe it was a hood that I said was blue. I could be incorrect. Okay, all right. A black mask covering the bottom portion of his face. Yes. Nothing further. All right. Does anybody on the jury have any questions for Ms. Voorhees? You may step down. Cross-examination. Afternoon recess. All right, Cindy. Okay, so this is the questioning of Brienne Wilbur, another witness. In 2017, were you a student at Delphi High School? Yes. Do you remember what grade you were in or how old you were? I would have been 16 and 10th grade. At that time, did you know Abby Williams or Libby German? I knew Libby. And how did you know her? I knew her through Kelsey German. And what was your association with Kelsey? She was one of my best friends. And did you use social media back in 2017? I did. Do you remember what your primary social media application was? I used Snapchat. And how would you use Snapchat? You would go on it and take pictures of yourself or what you were doing, and then you can send it to friends or post it to a story for everyone to see that you're friends with. Did you have Abby Williams or Libby German in your Snapchat friends list? Libby German was a friend. Do you recall that was a day you did not have school? Correct. Did you go to the Monon High Bridge Trail that day? I did. Was that a place that you visited often? It was. And would you go alone or with friends or both? I would typically go with friends, never alone. Was it within walking distance of your home? It was. And is that how you would get there? Yes. Did you go there on February 13th, 2017 with friends or alone? With friends. And who did you go with? I went with Rayleigh and Anna. And tell us about the events leading up to you and Rayleigh going to the High Bridge. I was at my house. She came over because we lived in close proximity. And then we both agreed that we were going to go take some pictures on her camera. And then we walked over. Were you a person that would cross the High Bridge? No. Would you go out on the bridge at all? Maybe one or two steps. And we have a large map here. And can you show us how you would have taken the path from town? Do you want me to get up? Yeah. You can step down. You need to stand to the side so that the jury can see what you're... Sorry, thank you. My house was over on the other side, right where that gravel patch is. And when we walked up that way and then over Freedom Bridge... Here, let me see if I have a map. Kind of help explain what she's talking about. I don't know if this one's going to help. Yeah, this one doesn't help either. Nope, never mind. Well, if you go across the Freedom Bridge towards the main parking lot, there's a trail that goes into Delphi. That's what she's talking about. So right where the gravel patch is, and then we walked up that way and then over Freedom Bridge, and then go down the trail to get to High Bridge. So you're following this path in the middle of... Correct. When you went to the High Bridge that day, do you remember seeing any other people? There were a few people, not at the High Bridge, but as we were walking the path, we saw some people. When you got to the High Bridge, what did you do? We took some pictures and then we just chit-chatted. We didn't do anything crazy. We didn't cross the bridge, just took pictures. So that's new information. We thought maybe one of the photographs was an indication that they actually crossed the bridge, right? Specifically this one right here. Where it's back. So I don't know if she meant back to the bridge or back from crossing the bridge. But apparently she's saying she never crossed. Did you post anything on your Snapchat to indicate that you were at the High Bridge? I did. And did you do any of that using your Snapchat application? I did. And then after you're at the High Bridge, what did you do? After we were at High Bridge, we were getting ready to leave and went the same path back. Did you see any people on your way back? We saw a few people, yeah. Okay, and did you take any pictures on your way back? We did. Was there one in particular that would have been your last photo on your way home? Mr. Baldwin says, leading the court. Could she finish the question? Was there a last photo you took before you left the trail? Overruled. You can answer. You provided those photos to law enforcement, did you not? I did. And you provided them with the timestamp from your Snapchat app, did you not? I did. I did. Miss Diener, may I approach the witness, Judge? You may. Miss Wilbur, I'm going to show you what's marked as State's Exhibit 211. So that's this photo here, 211. Take a look at it. There's 4 pages. Do you recognize those? I do. And do they accurately represent photographs from your Snapchat application along with the timestamp data from your phone? They do. Ms. Diener says, State will move to admit Exhibit 11 through 211 and publish it to the jury. Miss Wilbur, would having the pictures assist you in testifying about the photographs when they were taken and what the corresponding Snapchat data tells us? Would it help you to see the pictures? Yes, thank you. So on the first page, describe your photo and tell us when you took that photo. Here, let's do this. Here, I'll read it over here, and then we'll keep the photos up over there. The first photo is a picture of the high bridge stating back, because I was there previously on other days. The picture was taken at 43 on February 13th, 2017. Well, it's interesting. Why would she be communicating back? Like, what does that mean? Who is she telling that she's back? Wouldn't all her friends already know that she's there? Like, who is she communicating to that wouldn't realize this? Or is she just kind of, I don't know. I feel like this is a very special place for all this group of kids. Like, we're back. I don't know. Maybe you guys can help make sense of that. The picture was taken at 12:43 on February 13th, 2017, and you saved that photograph from that day. Yes. And then the third page, which is your second photo, can you describe that photo when it was taken based on your testimony as to your time on the High Bridge Trail? This photo was taken after we had already been to the High Bridge. When we were on our way back, it was taken on one of the benches at 1:26 on February 13th. After the picture was taken at the bench, did you see people on your way out of the High Bridge Trail back to town? Yes, we saw maybe one or two people on our way out. See, that's very interesting. Who are these people? And was there anyone that caught your attention on your way out? Yes. And can you describe why that person caught your attention? Because it was a warmer day on February, and they were dressed in what looked like many layers with a kind of heavier jacket, which I thought was kind of strange. Also, with the way that he was walking, kind of like he was with a purpose. I knew where he was going. Also, Rayleigh, when we were with her, she was saying hi to everybody, and everyone was saying hi back because we're all in a good community here. When she said hi to this person that we passed, there was no hesitation in him stopping and saying hi, and it just kind of gave me weird vibes. So here, the witnesses are painting a picture of bridge guy moving with purpose, like he's targeting somebody. If he's targeting somebody, you guys, this is not a crime of opportunity. He's going there looking for Abby and Libby. And if he's expecting Abby, specifically, remember, he apologized about killing Abby. He didn't say anything about Libby. But if he is targeting Abby and Bree loads the photo, this kind of looks like Abby. Right? And I believe that Richard Allen was stalking them through Snapchat. That's how he was able to know exactly where they were, when they were going to be there. So if he sees this photo posted by Bree, he's thinking in his head, well, how is Bree posting a photo of herself and taking a photo of herself? So it must be somebody else. It must be Abby. And the reason I believe that is because at 1:26, when this photo was uploaded, right at 1:27, you have Richard Allen coming from the direction of the cemetery. So less than 2 minutes after this photograph right here that looks like Abby, he comes zipping down 300, parks at CPS, and walks past these girls. Pissed off, wearing a disguise, hiding his license plate at the CPS building. This is not a crime of opportunity. He wouldn't be acting that way. He would have had nothing covering his face. He wouldn't be so layered up. He would just have a simple jacket on, and he would have just been walking around. And then at that very moment, decided to commit the murder. So, I mean, everything points at a pre-planned crime and that Abby and Libby were targeted. Okay, and so you proceed back to town, is that correct? Yes. Later that day, do you, or actually during that day at all, do you learn that Libby is going to the High Bridge Trail? Yes. And how do you learn that? As we were walking back, she messaged me on one of my pictures on Snapchat and asked if we were still there. And would that be one of the pictures that you took from that day on Snapchat? Yes. And so explain to the jury how it happens that she messages you on your picture. If somebody is looking at your story, when they click on it, the picture pops up and you are able to slide up and then type something related to the picture. And it will send to whoever posted the picture. And so was Libby in your friend list so that she could see your Snapchat story? Yes. And is your Snapchat story something that is exclusive to people that you select? Yes, to friends only. And so did you receive this message from Libby German? So what I'm thinking is if Richard Allen was using a fake account like something similar to the Anthony Schatz account, that account would be on her friends list. Should be on Bree's list, unless it was just straight up Anthony Schatz. And when I say left, I'm saying past Freedom Bridge. Yes, we were still on the trail when she messaged me. Okay, and when you responded, what did you say? I told her no, that we had just left maybe 10 minutes ago. And so when you were saying 10 minutes ago, you are referring specifically to High Bridge or just the trail in general? To High Bridge. Okay, later that day, did you learn that Abby Williams and Libby German were missing? Yes. And do you remember how you learned that? We were at home. It was me and Kelsey's grandma had tried to contact her. And that is how we found out. Okay, and at some point then, are you asked to talk to the police because you had been on the bridge, the trail that day? Later that evening, yes. And did you give a statement in response to questions about people that you saw on the trail? Yes. And did you give a statement about the person that you saw as you were leaving the trail and you said was a bit off? Yes. So she's talking about this creepy guy before she has any knowledge of Libby's video. You know, so she wasn't influenced by the video yet. And what were you able to tell law enforcement? I informed him that this person was walking kind of with a purpose. He had something that seemed to have maybe been covering his nose or mouth, but his head was also kind of tucked down. So it's like he's trying to hide his face from the public. I'm telling you guys, everything points to a pre-planned crime here. Now, was it pre-planned as in he's going to go to the trails and he doesn't, the first opportunity he gets? Or is he going to the trails to specifically target Abby and Libby? I mean, if he's an opportunistic killer, why is he targeting two people at one time? That doesn't make any sense, guys. Everything points to a pre-planned crime here by way of stalking on Snapchat. I wasn't able to see much hair. I don't know if his hood was down or if he had a hat on. He had a blue or black jacket with blue pants on. And after the next day, did you learn that Abby Williams and Libby German were deceased? Yes. Following that day, did you see on television or social media an image of a person denoted as Bridge Guy? Yes. And did you have any thoughts about that particular person? When I saw the image, the first thing that went into my head was, that's the person that we passed on the trail. So, you guys, it's not an argument anymore whether or not Richard Allen is the Bridge Guy. That's just the way it is. And he apologized for killing Abby. To me, I believe he had help. It's Richard Allen and another person or a few other people down there. That's the only logical explanation. Let's see. State's Exhibit 210. Is that the image you would have seen in media or news? I don't know which one they're referring to. Probably the Bridge Guy image. Let me see if I can pull it back up. So the image that they're talking about wasn't released yet that I know of. Okay, and is this the image that you believed was the person that you saw on the trail? Yes. Can you come down to the map and show us where the last picture was taken that indicated was at 1:26 p.m.? It would have been about right here in this area, because in the back of the picture, there's a green building with the green roof. Okay, and you can see that in the back of your photograph, and that's what you use for reference? Yes. How long after that photograph on the bench? So you're on the trail? Yes. How long after your photograph with that building in the background did you run into the bridge guy going past you? I don't know the exact time, but I do know that we were still in the woods. I'd say around this area, because it was still very woody. Hold on. I think I have something to help. Okay, so their timestamp photograph right here at this bench, 1:26. We know that because she documented the photograph. It's marked there, 1:26. And then less than 2 minutes later, about a minute and a half later, Richard Allen is zipping down 300. We have to wonder, why is he coming from the direction of the cemetery and Ron Logan's home? It matches Kagan Klein's confession of being in the cemetery. There's no reason for Richard Allen to be coming from that direction. And it also is evidence that he's stalking on Snapchat. Remember Kagan Klein logging into 2 burner phones that morning in Peru where Richard Allen was that morning? I mean, come on, guys. I mean, it's almost obvious what's going on here. So you have them loading a photo up to Snapchat that Libby's commenting on. And that was before they bumped into the bridge guy. And shortly after. And they bumped into him right here. Now remember, Richard Allen said, I ran into these 3 girls. Looked like they were babysitting. One was younger than the other. One was taller than the rest. They might have been sisters. Well, the 3 girls that he ran into were sisters. They were babysitting. They saw him and he saw them. There's no arguing that Richard Allen is the bridge guy. I'm sorry. There's no arguing about that. You can try. I'm looking for one photo here. Oh, here it is. So she posts a photo at 1:26 to Snapchat. And a minute and a half later, guess who comes zipping down the road and parks right near where they're at? Now, I don't know if Richard Allen is silencing something, silencing his victims for a previous crime, maybe grooming. I'm not quite sure. Or if they're running out of time to commit a murder on tape. I mean, why else would you attack 2 victims? Typically, a psycho person is going to attack somebody who seems vulnerable. To a piece of shit like Richard Allen, why would he target out 2 girls that are going to give him a hard time? It doesn't make any sense, guys. It doesn't seem like it's part of his profile. Let's go to the chat real quick. See what we got going on over there. Witchy Widow, what's up? Happy Friday. Piper's Dream, always good to see you. Oh, so in order to fit your narrative, J. Ray, she's lying? Come on, we got to deal with the facts as they come, and then we piece it together. We don't change the facts. We don't change the information to suit our own personal needs. They found nothing incriminating on his phone. Lori, that's not true. They haven't found his phone. His phone's missing. He has every phone that he's ever owned except the phone from that time period. He has every other phone, but they have not recovered the phone that he had in his hand on the trails that day. I don't believe he's an opportunistic killer. Either do I. The evidence doesn't support that. KK, I talked to that girl that morning and she was supposed to come meet me, but she never showed. Yeah, it sounds very pre-planned. And remember, Kagan Klein implicated TK, but the only alibi that TK has is Kagan Klein. Kagan Klein, his only alibi is his cell phone being in operation and moving around in Peru during the time of the crime. You know, it's interesting. The only thing that, in the Evansdale case, the only thing preventing Michael Klunder from being considered the number one suspect or the person responsible, obviously an issue with DNA. We don't have all that information. But his cell phone activity. So the same alibi that Kagan Klein has in the Delphi murders is the same alibi that Michael Klunder has in the Evansdale case. And we just did a live stream on Michael Klunder yesterday talking about the evolution of a serial killer and how they evolve and they get better at what they do. So maybe that was part of his evolution of creating an alibi, because apparently it's an efficient way. If you want to get away with the murder, all you have to do is have your cell phone doing something else in another location, and law enforcement will clear you. So if you give me your phone and tell me, hey, and I'm part of the crime, maybe I went and did some recon earlier in the morning, right? Creepy guy near the private drive. And we come up with the plan. All right, well, I need an alibi. Well, just give me your phone. I'll connect it to my Wi-Fi. I'll just go about my daily, I'll run my chores for today. I'll do everything I normally do, but I'll do it on your phone. There's your alibi. So if that's all it takes to clear you from a murder, that sucks. That's scary. Yep, 149. Yeah, Kelsey dropped him off at 145. She sits there in the Mears lot making a phone call. And then while she's still midway through the phone call, she leaves. So she kind of sat around for a couple minutes. What's up, Tony? Yeah, you're basically calling her a liar. She's testifying in a court of law under penalty of perjury. And to suit your own narrative, J. Ray, you're saying that she's telling a lie to fit what you believe. I mean, you can do whatever you want. I'm just pointing it out. If you want to take the blue pill, that's on you. One woman who saw BG described him as young with beautiful eyes. Yeah, that was Betsy Blair. That's the way she remembered it. And the thing is, Richard Allen has nice eyes. And when he's looking up and in the right light, he looks very boyish. And also, a lot of people associate being short with young for whatever reason. And I'm saying you're changing the facts, Jay Ray. You don't have to agree with me. I'm just telling you. You're choosing not to believe her so that it can benefit your narrative, instead of trying to process what she's saying as a truth, because it goes against your narrative. And that's fine if that's what you want to do. If you want to take the blue pill, here's a glass of water, right? Here's some ice water to help it go down. But okay, I don't know the exact time, but I do know that we were still in the woods. I'd say around this area because it was still very woody. We weren't getting to the point where we could see the highway or hear it. If you were walking out of the trail toward town, which way was the bridge guy walking? Bridge guy was walking this way because we were walking that way. As far as the timestamp on your phone, were you set to Indiana local time? Yes. And so your timestamp would have been accurate as the time of day. Yes. All right, here's the cross examination, and then we'll get out of here for today. I want to spend some time talking about this guy that you say creeped you out. I might have to do that more often. So this is the guy that you say creeped you out. Yes. Now, the height of that guy that creeped you out was you stood as high as his upper forearm. Is that correct? I'm not. Can you reword that? Sure. You've described this man's height is that you stood as high as his upper forearm. I don't remember that being mentioned. At the time, that's what I guessed at. I was going off of just kind of general height of my family and height wise, but it was a quick pass by. So she's referring to the tall men in her own family, right? I'm up to there. She's basically saying it was a man. So he was a taller guy. Correct. Thank you. That's the guy that creeped you out. That's on that photo. Correct. He was a muscular guy. I'm unsure. Okay, do you remember giving a statement to police in August of 2020? Dave Vito was there. Talk was in the U.S. Marshal's office. Do you remember that? Yes. Okay, would it help refresh your memory if I asked you to review your words? Okay, great. I'm going to hand that to you. Have you looked at page 22? Do you guys have that? Yada, yada. Okay, does that refresh your recollection from this? Yes. You said he was muscular. Yep. Younger guy? I'm unsure. You told police. Did you tell the police that he was in his early 30s? Was that in 2020 interview? Yes. I may have if it's in there. That was 3 years later. So is your memory bad 3 days, 3 years later when you talk to the police? See, this is what's disgusting about the defense attorneys. You know, they don't care how they treat people as long as it benefits their client. There's no humanity. Hey, and I guess that's what you got to do. Given at the time I was 16, at that point in 2020, I was around 19, 20. I understand. He wore a zip-up windbreaker jacket. Is that correct? I do remember that. Not a heavy jacket. One of those windbreaker jackets, yes. And he had his hood was on, and he had a hoodie, and it was on. He was wearing it over his head. He had something on his head because I wasn't able to see his hair. There was a lot of other people on the trail that day. There were a few other people, yes. Did you see a guy on the trail that day that looked to be around and had brown poofy hair by chance? I don't recall. So they're asking about the young bridge guy, right? They're trying to find any doubt that they can. Miss Wilbur, referring you back to the photographs you identified as the person you saw, did anybody look like this other than the person that you saw after the bench picture and before you left the trail? And that's it. All right, let's hang out in the chat for a bit more. Cheeks, you should pull up the picture of Richard Allen in the pool hall where he looks older. Yeah, that's a good example. Let me find that. If I can find it. Nothing's ever where it should be. Oh, here it is. I'll just show the photo, not my illustration. Okay, so this is about a month before the murders. So notice Richard Allen with his head up and in the light, which is what Betsy Blair would have seen. If he took off his face covering and had his little beanie on and was smoking a cigarette and looking up and the sun was glaring down at him right at 2 o'clock, this is what she would have seen. But she would have only seen it for a brief moment. So she sees it, doesn't even really know what she saw, doesn't know that she's supposed to remember it. Crime happens, and now she's trying to go back into her memory bank. Like, okay, what was it? Well, I remember him being a handsome, she thought he was handsome. I don't know, J. Ray. Why do you think she's lying? You obviously need her to be lying for something. I mean, why would somebody be lying on the stand other than to benefit your own narrative? I mean, it's basically just this with his older photo. So let me show you two photos from the same day where Richard Allen looks like two different people. So same day, he just took off his jacket. Okay, let's say you just stopped by this bar right here. Let's say you just walked in to use the restroom. You walk in and you see this guy. You walk out and you see this guy. 2 days later, you're stopped by law enforcement, say, hey, there was a murder that took place in a bar. We understand that you were there. She's going to describe possibly a younger man in all black and then an older man wearing a striped shirt and a beanie cap. So same day, you got a man with his head down. You can see his beard clearly. You can see the turkey neck, his double chin that usually accompanies people up there in age, right? Versus this guy who has taken off his face covering, most likely smoking a cigarette because the girls aren't there. Where are they? He's probably looking at his phone, following Snapchat, saying, hey, well, I got 5-10 minutes. I'm going to hang out right here and smoke a cigarette. Maybe didn't even realize Betsy Blair saw him. But simply by lifting your head and being in a certain lighting, I mean, he looks like he could be 25 right here. This looks like the eldest son of Richard Allen, right? And there's his dad right here. I don't know why it's so hard for people. They think that your memory is, everybody has a photographic memory, but we don't. Not even close. But I think that's going to do it for today. We'll make this a part 1. We'll do a part 2 maybe later tonight. So you guys go ahead and do your homework on the transcript, highlight some areas of interest, and then we'll pinpoint some of the information that we need to focus on that wasn't available to us prior to this. But most of this stuff we already know. That would be Sarah Carbaugh. So Sarah Carbaugh is the muddy and bloody guy. She saw the muddy and bloody guy on 300 at 3:57 p.m. All right. If you guys can, please hit the like button on the way out. If you can't hit the Cash App, hit the like button. If you have anything to add to this, or if you have any suggestions for me or my channel, or just in general, you can always email me at sleuthintuition@gmail.com. If there's anything you want to specifically go over later tonight, as far as the transcripts, go ahead and get that information highlighted, and we'll focus in on it. Big thank you to Cindy Lean sponsoring today's live stream. And if you guys want to support my channel, consider becoming a member. If you're interested in donating to the cause, all my links are in the description. Thank you to my moderators, my members, and all my subscribers. We'll finish this a little bit later up tonight. So if you guys find anything as far as something that we may not have gone over, little tidbits, you can send them to me as well at sleuthintuition@gmail.com. Otherwise, thank you guys for catching the live stream. Rest in peace to Abby and Libby. I don't know if they have full justice. We do have some closure with the arrest of Richard Allen, but just so many questions still remain. And maybe we'll find out what those are together. Until next time, guys, take care of yourselves. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. And I'll catch you on the flip side. Peace.